And you must ask yourself this as black people. There's some realities we must face. Why is it that everywhere you go and find whites and blacks in close proximity to each other, whites are on top? Whites are ruling. That question must be answered. Questions like that cannot be skated on. You can't tell me, oh, it just happens that way. It's just a function of history. Somewhere, if that was not an intent here, somewhere in the world you will find black folks oppressing whites. Somewhere in the world. Such is not the case. Not only where you find blacks, where you will find blacks in anybody else, the blacks on the bottom. You have to begin to ask yourself why. Therefore, what I'm proposing, I want to explain to you now about menticide and how I'm going to try to prove here to you tonight, really for some of you the first time, how this first developed. Approximately, exactly 55 years ago. 55 years ago, a white professor of psychology at the University of Chicago proclaimed to the world this prophecy. Here's what he said, and I'm quoting him. Give me a dozen healthy infants, listen carefully. Give me a dozen healthy infants, well-formed, and here's what's important, and my own specified world to bring them up in, and I'll guarantee to take anyone at random and train him to become any type of specialist I might select. Doctor, lawyer, artist, merchant, chief, and yes, even a beggar man and a thief. Regardless of his talents, his penchants, his tendencies, his abilities, his vocations, and the race of his ancestors. In the quote. The man who made that statement was John B. Watson, a graduate of the University of Chicago and later a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago, and who started behaviorism. Most of you know about B.F. Skinner. John Watson started behaviorism at the University of Chicago, and that's what he said. Give me on my own world, my own specified world, and I will bring up a person anywhere where I would turn him into anything I want him to be. I'll give you some aside about Watson. What happened to Watson was that they came in one day and caught Watson on top of the desk in a compromising position with a female student, and the usual things that goes on in universities, and tried to reprimand him, and he resigned and started J. Walter Thompson's advertising, which, as you know, became the world's largest advertising firm. Now, this properly called behavior modification is a highly complex science, which is underrated and generally ignored by black behavior scientists. Yet any black with a cursory knowledge of B.F. Skinner's experimental analysis of behavior, what it is, should recognize its potential danger to our community, where every institution is under the control of whites. That's what makes it so dangerous. The whites have their specified world. All of our life-sustaining institutions under control of whites. And so therefore Skinner, who I consider one of the most dangerous white men alive, Skinner came up with these 8 words. Behavior is shaped and maintained by its consequences. Those are devastating words. Skinner talks here. That behavior is shaped and maintained by what happens, by its consequences. Skinner single-handedly wiped out the civil rights movement. Almost single-handedly theorized and wiped out the white. Because they finally realized that brothers and sisters' rhetoric was inconsistent with their behavior. And they realized that brothers and sisters' rhetoric could be altered by the consequences. By the consequences. So at first they were taking us real serious. We'll burn this place down. And they found out they could wipe that brother out by asking him how much. How much money you want? How much y'all want for the Black Studies program? How many airline tickets y'all want? And so that's strictly a Skinnerian thing. And they carried it much farther. And out of that came Skinner articulated that it is possible to delude people in believing that they have the essence of life, namely, and that's where he wrote his book, Beyond Freedom and Dignity, which you should read. Because what Skinner talked about is that everything black, he talked about blacks in that, he wrote about blacks in that book. And he talked about in there that beyond freedom and dignity, that you can give people freedom and dignity, or concepts of freedom and dignity, and still control them. Still control them. And that's why he said beyond freedom and dignity. Give black folks freedom and dignity. They keep saying they want freedom, they want dignity. Give it to them and still control them. And so, why you cannot use traditional white techniques, because it assumes an inherent equality between blacks and whites. So let's go into some of the, and I always use to show you clearly how menticide operates.
And it's very interesting, by the way, why in these psych books you have talk about rats and dogs. Because often the unaware African thinks that that's what the whole deal is about, rats and dogs. Another consciousness controlling tool. And as soon as you mention conditioning, somebody will jump up, oh, the Pavlovian dog. You know, they're going to immediately show you how smart they are in terms of the Pavlovian dog. You see? And how smart they are about the rat and you know, the Skinner box. But if you talk to them for a whole night, they never quite get around to how it is that we are the Pavlovian dog. And that we are the rat. We never see that part. And yet, look at it, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about the so-called Skinner rat, it's a rat taken out of its natural habitat, placed in a box. It is placed in a condition, a new set of conditions, a new environment. It's going to have experiences in that box it has never had before in its life. It must learn to survive in that box and cope with that box. It must learn to push that lever in order to eat. It has never had to do that before. Never. But it's got to learn. It's got to learn that when the yellow light comes on, it can push the lever and get food. But when the green one comes on, no food is coming. It has to learn that it can get food every time it pushes the lever, or to get food every 5th time it pushes the lever, or every 15th time it pushes the lever, or it gets food every 5 minutes, and you can just manipulate its behavior around and around and around. The experimenter says, okay, you're not going to eat until you hit the bar 5 times, 15 times. And sometimes you can see the rat even learns that, you know. It just doesn't hit the food sometimes steadily. You may hit it fast 15 times. Or the experimenter says, I'm going to feed you every 5 minutes regardless of how many times you hit the bar. And that rat will get a sense of time. Toward the end of that 5 minutes, then it'll start hitting the bar. You see? And you can manipulate and change its behavior in terms of how you're going to reward it and how you're going to punish it. It knows something now, and it behaves now in a way that no other rat behaves. It has learned something new. Why? Because it has been placed under a set of conditions. It has learned to adjust to those conditions and to cope with those conditions. If it went back to its natural habitat, it would be a strange rat, I'm telling you. And we know sometimes how so-called tamed animals, as a result of their social interaction with human beings, are unable to even survive in their natural environment because of the way they've had to survive in their natural environment. And so what we recognize in the Skinner experiment is this, that the rat not only lives in a condition and in an environment, the environment and the condition does what? Lives in the rat. And the rat is an expression of its environment. As a matter of fact, the environment and conditions speak through the rat and literally uses its body to express itself. And this is why often we can hear some people talk, the way they dress, the way they walk, and tell where they're from. Because we not only live in a neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen, the neighborhood does what? It lives in us. It expresses itself through us. We are its vehicle. It comes out through us. So consequently, when another people shape your neighborhood, and they shape your schools, and they shape the experiences you have, they are in the process then of creating us as human beings. We have to recognize that. This is why the black student has to look at the rat not as a rat, but as a prototype of himself. And if he does not see that rat that way, he's been miseducated. I don't care how many A's he makes equal to the white boy, he's been miseducated. And yet the white man has sat right there and told him exactly how he's doing it. Exactly. No bones about it. And I often tell my students then, look at this rat and this experimenter, not from the point of view of the way it's written in the book. So consequently, when another people shape your neighborhood, and they shape your schools, and they shape the experiences you have, they are in the process then of creating us as human beings. We have to recognize that. This is why the black student has to look at the rat not as a rat, but as a prototype of himself. And if he does not see that rat that way, he's been miseducated. I don't care how many A's he makes equal to the white boy, he's been miseducated. And yet the white man has sat right there and told him exactly how he's doing it. Exactly. No bones about it.